Hi everybody, it's nice to see you all. I'm very excited about this. So a few weeks ago I told you that I would teach you how to make a shape card using the matte layers from the SVG cutting files that we bring you from Highlight Crafts. And we've launched 4 web exclusives. So every time we do a collection of dies, we launch a couple of web exclusives that are only available on our website. And we're doing the same with the SVG files. So just like you would on a USB, you get the original. You either then get a smaller version and a larger version, or a larger and an extra large version. If there's different colorways, and we can pop an extra colorway in, we will do. And then you get them in 3 different sizes, etc., which is super cool. And it just allows you to, sometimes when you're making a cake or something, or you're making a meal, and those extra couple of ingredients would make a difference and reinvigorate the original meal. That's what this is like with the USBs. I think it's really cool. So Summer Breeze, we've got Wild Royalty. Now, bearing in mind, these are super fine. I'm just going to bring one in to show you. This is the, like the clover, if you like. I mean, that is just stunningly beautiful. And look how fine we can get with our cuts on the ScanNCut. So we've got this one, and again, you've got it in those 3 different sizes. Then we've got reversed reflections as well. So they're the opposite way around. So you've got your reversed. Then we've got the mushrooms. Now I love these, and I'm bringing out something in April that you might want to have these for. I can't tell you any more yet, but when I can, I'll get very excited about it. So we've got small reversed. You will have small the regular way, and then you've got your original and your large. And you can see here what we've done is given you a different colourway as well, which is lovely, because in the woodland we see all sorts of different colours of mushrooms, don't we? So you've got the 2 different colourways. This would be lovely as well if you're colouring in, because this will be a really nice one to just really practice your blending with. Then we've got Oscar from Nature's Homestead. I love this one. This beautiful owl just swooping in, again, in those 3 different colour sizes and in reverse. And then we've got Oliver Duke. I love that name. It makes him feel really regal before you even see the image, doesn't it? Oliver Duke. What a lovely name. So we've got that, and again, in different sizes. So this is the smallest one, and then this is the original, and then you'll have a larger one. So end of term cards for teachers will be fabulous. Father's Day, male birthdays, things like that. Make a whole shape card around the owl. Super fun. So what I'm going to talk to you about now and show you is how, when you get your USB or you get your web exclusives, you will have detailed designs which you can draw and foil and emboss. And don't forget, Tattered Lace now do a foiling pen that works inside the ScanNCut. So you could take the detail file, draw it over the top of your reflection, and then foil it. How amazing is that? I'm going to do some more tutorials on that, but it won't be immediately because I've got a ton of work to get through. And the matte layers are the outside edge die in effect. So when we bring you dies, we bring you that matte layer. That's what they are. So I wanted to show you how you could use those. So the first thing that I do when I'm doing this is start to build up my image just with the reflection images. So if I just bring this in here now, I'm going to show you this. I'm just going to get rid of some of these flowers at the front because they can be stuck on afterwards. But this is how I start to build up my design. So I cut everything out first, so I have a nice little pile in front of me and I know where I'm going. And then I look at this, I'm just going to bring these down. So I wanted to use the mushrooms because they have quite a flat bottom. I know it's curved and it's a little bit crinkly, as it should be, but it gives you a base. There's lots of points there that could hit the mantelpiece so it will stand up. Then I reversed it. So I've got the reverse reflection. So this is going to be the bottom of my card. And then because we've got another colourway, brilliant, because a row of 3 would look a little bit uniform. The woodland isn't uniform. I've got another set that's going to go in there like that. So let's do that bit first so I can show you how we then manipulate this to work. So the USB isn't an official USB, it's just one of mine. So there'll be loads of stuff on it, but I've got it in a folder for you. So the USB is popped into the side of my ScanNCut. Doesn't matter which model you've got, it will work in all of them. Then we've got retrieve data and USB. And on here, there's lots of things around here that I've been designing, and I'll have a word with you about that in a bit. But web exclusive February 2022. So click on that, And the first one that I want are the wax cap mushrooms. So I click on that and I used the large. So you've got your detail images, which will look like the die cut would with all the detail lines in. And then you've got your reflections, which is the coloured image. So you would use that to cut out your reflections. And then you've got your matte cuts. So let's go in with the large matte. And I'm just going to press OK. And it looks quite a strange shape, that, doesn't it? And it's also on a slight angle. Now, what we need to do is make sure that that's flat, level at the bottom, because otherwise our card will be wonky. We need to have as many points touching wherever the card is displayed as possible. So the first thing I'm going to do is edit it, go into Object Edit and just rotate it. And I'm going to rotate it 10 degrees anti-clockwise. So now it's level at the bottom. So now I know that I can work with that and my card is going to stand up. So that's the first thing I do. Don't be scared of rotating them, because you're not using the reflection image. So you're not changing the orientation of the image that's the reflection, that you need it in the right place to cut it out. This is the matte layers. So what I want now is another one of those to come over here. So I press OK and I go into Duplicate, put 2 in the box and press OK. Move this one over here and then I'm going to flip it because I'm going to use the reverse reflection. So now we're really getting to use that extra thing that you don't get with the die, which is the reversed image. So all we do is flip it like that, okay? And I'm going to move that over slightly. Then I'm going to add. So I'm going to press OK and I'm going to keep going until I get to the add box. And I'm going to go back into my USB and I'm going to go back into the web exclusives and back into the mushrooms. Now, once you've done this once, you don't need to keep doing this. You'll save it and that will be your shaped card. So if you've got somebody that makes and sells and you're going to make 50 of these, you've created the file once. You don't have to go through this all the time. So back into the matte cuts. And this time we're going to use the original matte or the small matte or whichever one you've chosen to use and press OK. Again, I'm going to edit that. And I'm going to go to Object Edit and Rotate. So the thing about the ScanNCut is it's very repetitive. And when you repeat something over and over and over again, it just becomes second nature. It goes into your muscle memory. It's really cool thing to do. So I'm going to have my original mushroom there. Might be that you use a smaller one. It's entirely up to you. Now, what I would suggest you do is save this before you weld it. Because if you go right through and you've got 13 or 14 different matte layers to create a fabulous shaped card, and then you cut it out and you think, oh, that flower could have just been nudged over a little bit more, you don't have to start all over again. So to do that, all we're going to do is press OK and we're going to keep going until we get to save, and we're going to save it onto a USB. Now, there is a list. If you go onto any search engine and type in compatible USBs for Brother ScanNCut, there is a whole list that comes up. But it's a literal list. So if it says Cruiser 8 gig, don't buy Cruiser 16 gig. It's literal, all right? So you'll be able to get a blank USB. But I think you'll probably find one on the Create and Craft website as well. And if not, maybe the Highlight Crafts website. So I'm going to press OK now because I've saved it. And then you can start to weld this if you want. But what I'm going to do is add a few more shapes first. So the next thing that I brought in was some florals. And I wanted to add some height. So I brought in this fabulous long floral. This is the extra large version. So if you're ever thinking, well, why do I need extra large? They're too big. Well, maybe you're a scrapbooker. Maybe you're into mixed media. This whole card will fit in an 8x8 envelope because I've made it work. That's the thing. I've made it work to what I want it to be. And don't forget, I could slide this right down underneath here so that the stem of it popped down under here and then just snip it off. So don't think you're being restricted because you're really not. Or you could resize your reflection again at your print settings. And if you're working on an SDX, when you come to resize, so if I just go into here and show you this, when you go to resize, you have a percentage button. So if you took your reflection, printed it at 75% of the original on your printer, and then all you do when you come to use the percentage is drop the percentage down to 75%. You've got loads of different sizes of that, so you can be really, really, really specific. And this year what I want to do is teach you little tips and tricks like that, but also teach you how to create your own files using the shapes in the ScanNCut. That might sound really scary, super, super simple. And I'm going to do a whole thing this year about teaching you how to get the most out of your ScanNCut. Right, so I've got that there. Then I decided I wanted some clover because I wanted a little pop of lilac because I know what image I'm going to use for my background. So I'm just going to pop that in there roughly. And then this cowslip. And this is lovely because this is just going to tuck behind. So all you then do is press OK and keep going until you get to add. And then you're going to go into retrieve data again and USB. So as I'm seeing, it's repetitive. Back into web exclusive and into wild royalty this time. And this time I'm going to use the matte cuts again. And I'm going to use the extra large. So when these come up, they look quite bulky and chunky, but don't forget you're going to weld all this together. And you do want that background outline. So I'm going to press OK. And I'm going to use this one first. And again, I'm going to rotate it. So I'm going to edit, object edit, and rotate it. And I'm going to go, let's have a look, 30 degrees, anti-clockwise, however you want it to be. Then I'm going to take the clover and I'm going to pop that in there and I'm going to rotate that. So we're now building up our image. And then we can have this one. Now this one needs rotating completely because it's upside down. And we can pop that one, say there, if you like, and you just keep building up and building up your image, which is really it's so much fun. So once you've got where you want to get to, so I'm going to pop that one into the bin. What you then do is save it at every step. So add 3 flowers in, save it again. So OK and save and onto the USB. Okay, it will ask you if you want to overwrite the original or create a new one. Create a new one. Because you've got the original one that you've already saved, it's asking you if you want to get rid of that one because you've changed your mind. I just keep them and then delete them out of the machine's memory or off the USB when I've finished. So we just press new and we do that now. So if I just show you the welding process as well, so you can see, I'm just going to add a circle because I've got a circle from Twilight Moments paper kit that I want to use as almost like a moon because it looks lovely as it is, but I wanted to add a background into it, but I didn't want it to be like a square or a rectangle or an oval. I wanted it to replicate something within the story of the image itself. So because I'm using quite a deep dark paper, I've used black to cut the elements out of. If you wanted to make this more of a spring summer day, then you could absolutely do that as well. So it's entirely up to you how you choose to use it. The other thing that I also added in was this fabulous owl. And I'm just going to pop him, Oscar. No, he's Oliver Duke, actually. Sorry. In there like that. Now, how fabulous is that? Just as it is. So we're going to use the circle from inside our basic shapes. So we're going to add. And we're going to go into patterns and into basic shapes. And I even know where the circle is. It's on page 3 in the bottom right hand corner. That's how much I've used this machine. So we're going to use that one. I'm going to resize this to 140. Now, when we use the matte layers, they're a 2mm matte, okay? Because you can't get any closer than that with the die, which is interesting because you can get really close to the ScanNCut. So when you're using, I used a 140mm circle to create the card base so that it reflects the 2mm all the way around the other images. So when you actually come to cut this circle out of paper, drop it to 136, so it's got a 2mm border all the way around the edge. Otherwise this will sit to the edge of your card and it won't have the black mat behind it. So I just wanted to show you that because it was something that I did wrong yesterday, and if I do it wrong first I can then teach you how to do it right. So if we set that on the mat, I then just literally, I didn't think about aligning it, I just positioned it where I wanted, but I was also looking at the height of this. So from the bottom to there we're at 8 inches. So I dropped it down a little bit more so that I could then add again and go back into my USB and just have a play around with different shapes because it's super cool that you can do this. I'm going to use Oscar, and I think I used the original Oscar. So we'll bring that in, original matte, and again him here. Now if I put him there like that, it's going to take your card too big. So edit, object edit and rotate. I think I rotated him 40 degrees. The best tip I can give you is to write down the images that you're using and make yourself a little map of where they are, because otherwise you'll get it and you think, right, where did I put that flower? And I know that because I did exactly the same thing. So a little map of which is where, and then once you've created it, you can keep that map if you want to, but then you can resize everything. So you could do this whole card and resize it down to 75% and just resize all your reflections to fit it, which is brilliant. I love the fact that we can do that. So the next thing we're going to do now is weld all these together. So multiple select everything that's on the mat and press OK. Go to Object Edit and weld it. Now, sometimes when you're welding lots and lots and lots and lots of shapes, it comes up and it tells you it can't do it because there isn't enough overlap. If you know, like I knew yesterday, full well that everything is overlapped and it refuses, it's the only thing that's ever stumped me on the ScanNCut in 7 years. If you group it and then ungroup it and then weld it, it works. I have no idea why. I've asked the question, I haven't had a response yet, but I don't know why. So if you ever come across that and you know categorically that everything's overlapped enough, group it, ungroup it, then weld it. It's bizarre. It's the only thing that's ever bugged me. So if you know the reason why, please let me know, because it's driving me bonkers. Right, so we've welded that now. So now that is your card base, and you're going to cut 2 of those, one for the front, one for the back. How cool is that though, that you've got all this shape to it. Now, if you were doing this with dies, you'd have to die cut it all out in black and overlay them all. Whereas with the ScanNCut, you can weld them all together and it's just one piece, which makes it look much neater. So let me just move this to one side because I don't want to lose the position of that. And let's bring this back in. So I'm going to start, I've got those flowers over there as well, because they're on the right hand side. I'm going to start by putting this moon in place. Now you can see this is where the curve of the circle is there, and it's giving me that 2mm border all the way around the outside edge. So I'm going to stick this down as we go. I would probably, if I was being sensible, use a spray adhesive, because some of these little elements are very, 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 very fine. And now I can't find my tweezers. Where have I put my tweezers? This is a thing, where I look like this. It's very funny because my granddaughter does exactly the same thing. My tweezers were absolutely on here a minute ago, but now they've disappeared. Right, so let's put this glue on here. And let's position this. Now the corn I've chosen this part of the image because I wanted the corn to add to the depth of the wildflowers that are going to be on this project. And then I've got Oscar, and he's going to fit perfectly in there, and you'll see where the edge of that matte layer just hugs the edge of the image. So I'm actually just going to put glue along this top edge here so that I can have a little bit of depth and dimension. And you could add glue gel or a foam pad under there if you wanted to. But it's still, just by sticking that top edge, it still gives, look, the lift of that wing. I don't like everything completely flat. I like to just build up different parts of the image. So let's go back to these here now. Let's bring in this large sprig. And you can see quite clearly where that's going to go, because that matte layer reflects where I chose to position that, okay? So I'm going to stick this one down now. Just a little bit of glue. I'm not going to do this as thoroughly as I would if I was making it to send to somebody, but you can do that at home. There's nothing more boring than watching people just stick pieces of paper together, is there? I know it's lovely to see it come together, but this is it's a little bit exciting, isn't it? Because you are seeing your design come together, but it's also a bit boring when you're sitting watching a video, just watching glue being put onto a piece of paper. Right, so I've got that in there. Then I had my clover next, and my clover is going to fit there. And once you've got the main area, so the main head of the clover there, everything else will just fall into place. So it just fits perfectly where it's meant to be, which is great. And I love doing things like this. This is one of my favourite things to do on the ScanNCut. I love the fact that you can take a shape and transform it, take lots of shapes and weld them together and make something else. And the fact that you can make these card blanks. So yes, you could do this on an 8x8 card, but you wouldn't have all this shape. And because we're working with a nighttime moon and quite a nighttime owl, I wanted to create that depth of field, if you like, and I love that. I love the fact that you can, using black card, you can create that almost like a silhouette, an extra silhouette, which then reflects the fact that it's dark and it's at night, this is how my brain works. I know it's a little bit bizarre. Sometimes my husband looks at me like I've got two heads and he's like, seriously? Really? How'd you see that in that? I'm like, well, I do. Even though I don't have pictures, my brain works in shapes. In fact, it was funny last week. We had quite a busy week last week. And Stephanie had a lot going on, and she kept saying to me, I haven't got pictures today. I haven't got pictures in my head. And that only happens when she gets really, really, really busy. And I just looked at her and went, welcome to my world. Now you know what I'm dealing with every day. She was like, I don't know how you do it. How do you do it without pictures? I'm like, no, just do. Because I have to. Because I didn't even know people had pictures in their head. I didn't even know that was a thing. But apparently it is. Right, this one here, you can see it's got like a little bubble there, and then it's got another little bubble there. So I know that this is going to fit here. This one's going to go there. And then my other one is going to fit somewhere around there. So let's glue these two down first. Let's get this put in place. And this is why I said write a little map, because it does help. Or, as I did last night, was laid it all out and then took a picture. So if I needed to refer to it, I could. So whatever works for you, you know, there's no rules or regulations, whatever works for you. But I'm better if I write stuff down rather than trying to remember it, because my head gets too full. So I'm going to pop that there. So we've got our little bit in there. And then this bit I'm going to deal with after I've put my mushrooms in. So mushrooms are going to go here. And look how perfectly that cuts round. Now, because we're using, even with a thinner paper, you will still get a white edge around here. And when you put that against black, it really shows up. So if you don't like that, just go in with a little blending brush, a little bit of black ink, and just go around the edges. But I actually quite like the fact that it looks like the moonlight's hitting the side of the mushrooms. So sometimes use that to your advantage. And also the other thing I did was, look, I put large, an original direction, if you like, not the reversed reflection. So you can always do that too. It's a very busy time at the moment, as you can probably imagine, and it's yeah, I have to give my brain as much help as I possibly can. So I'm just pressing this down now, and then we're going to take our opposite mushroom here, and now look how that fits perfectly in there. And then this is going to go behind there. So now I know where this is going. I can position that in place now too. So I can bring that down, so that bobbly bit there. Perfect. So if you ever get lost, just put the other pieces in. It's like a jigsaw, isn't it? You know, if you can't find a piece, go to the next piece and then come back to it. So there, like that. I'm just going to pull that round a little bit, because remember we have rotated some of these shapes as well. And then we're going to have Oliver Duke. I'm going to put this one on next. So now that fills that space perfectly. Isn't it clever, this? I love it. I love the fact that we can make these amazing shaped cards and then save the file and cut them, you know, cut them loads of times. It's just so cool. But the best tip I can give you is save as you go along, because you do not want to get to the end and think, oh, that's not quite right. Save the file as you go along. You can always delete it. And then my little owl is going to pop in there. My other mushrooms are going to go on the front there. Right, I'm happy with that positioning. So I'm going to pop this down there like that. We have a barn owl. So when you look out of our house, at the back is a reservoir and it's fields. And at the top there's another house that has a barn. And we have a barn owl that lives in that barn. And it's enormous. When you see it coming towards you, its wingspan is, it's just majestic. They're fabulous, fabulous creatures. So now I can take some of my little extra elements here, and I can just pop a little bit of glue on here. Again, you will be more thorough with your glue when you're at home. Let's get rid of that excess glue, and I'm just going to pop that down there. So we're now bringing some of these stems forward. And again, use some glue gel. I would use glue gel rather than foam pads, because some of these pieces are very, very, very delicate. I mean, look how beautiful that is. Look at that. Isn't that stunning? And it never ceases to amaze me that a moving blade and a moving platform can cut that brilliantly. But that's the joy of the ScanNCut, and we are going to be doing loads of education this year on the ScanNCut, which is very exciting. So I'm just going to pop that under there. It's been my baby for 7 years, this machine, and I actually can't imagine crafting without it now. In fact, I had a lovely email from a viewer the other day that said, my crafting universe will never be the same again. And I was like, yep, mine neither. Because when you discover what you can actually do with it, it's super, super, super exciting. And it's kept my attention for 7 years, which is unheard of, let me tell you. Unheard of. So I might need another one there, maybe. Yeah, I'm going to bring that pink over here. And this time I'm going to allow that just to hang over the edge, but you could have welded it in if you wanted to. It's entirely up to you. But now you've got the welded shape. If you suddenly think, oh, actually, I just want to add this to it, you can. You can just go back into the file and add the extra bits in there as well. So I'm layering up all of these elements, and that's why I wanted the corn in the background, because it adds more depth and perspective. Even though a lot of this is flat, you've got that depth because you've got that straw against the moon. So how do we make this into a card? Well, we're bringing a second one like this, and all I do is take a ruler, I line it up on a piece of 12 by 12 or a piece of A4, whichever, or your glass mat, so I know that the bottom of the card is level. And then I position that there, and I want it to have a score line across there and a little bit of one there. So I'm just going to now lift this against my ruler like that. You could do it with a proper score line. I need to find those tweezers and I have no idea where they've gone. We'll use this. Needs must. And I'm just going to run along there like that. So you could put a perforation line in if you wanted to on your ScanNCut. So I've now got my fold line there, and I'm just going to now bend it forwards so it just breaks the fibres of that card, and then bend it backwards because we want it to be that way to stick to the back of this card. So I'm just going to fold this over like that, put a little bit of glue there, and put quite a bit of glue here like this, and then take this image that we've created, line it up, just making sure you're lining up as you go, and then the top will fit perfectly over there, and you will have created your card shape. And then there are some little silhouette birds that we do as well, which will be really nice on that. But just to add a little bit more, something a little bit more onto here, I've got a white Posca pen, and I'm literally just going to primed it, so we've got the paint coming through, and I am literally just banging it now against my finger to get some little splats, almost like some of the little seeds are just blowing, and it just gives it a little bit more, what's the word, atmosphere. That's the word I was looking for, atmosphere. So now, not only am I covered in white paint, but now look how fabulous is that, and it stands perfectly by itself. I think that's super cool. And then do you know what would be really cool? If you use the matte layer of the owl, or even the reflection of the owl, and you cut a matte out and put it inside on white card. That's where you could write your sentiment, and you could have a smaller version down at the bottom or a smaller version on the back with handmade by. So you're creating from start to finish using those matte layers. And I think, you know, when we look at doing USBs, we try and put everything on that we can, hence the matte layers, because that's perfect for welding and making your shapes. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all very, very soon. Go play. Bye.